Welcome, everyone, to the Triple Margin Freedom Podcast, the podcast where we talk all things profit, all things time, and all things better teamwork. I'm your host, Mark Mathia, and today we're in studio. Yay, we've made it in studio, and I have a special guest, someone who I want to officially welcome home, and I'm excited to introduce you, our listeners, to Victoria Novak. Vic, welcome home.
Ooh, I know. I feel like boomeranging again, coming back into Omaha. What an exciting time that I left South Carolina with weather colder than it is here. So.
Oh, that's crazy.
But great to be back, and thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you in here, and I'm going to read your bio real quick so the audience can get to know you a little bit, and I can't wait to jump in. You know, the fun thing about this particular interview, and a great way to kick it off, is Victoria and I have been working together for a long time. And so when I say there's no skeletons in the closet, that closet is open, wide open. And so, we know each other. We've known a leadership journey that has been shared for a lot of our careers. And then to see you rise to these new heights has been just amazing. And so I'm so very proud of your walk, of your career, and the impact you're having in Greenville County, but also the impact that you're having in the lives of people you've touched. We were just reminiscing about some of the work that you planted here in Omaha that's still going and strong. So let me get to it real quick. Victoria Novak is the executive director of the Greenville Literacy Association, where she leads innovative, community-driven effort to increase literacy and employability of all adults across Greenville County, South Carolina. Her work centers on building confidence, strengthening pathways to economic mobility, and fostering cross-sector partnerships that address workforce and educational gaps. With a career spanning workforce development, higher education, and collaborative program design, Victoria has worked with industry partners to create training programs that prepare individuals for in-demand careers. She previously held leadership roles at Spartanburg Methodist College, Metropolitan Community College, focusing on technology integration, workforce innovation, and community collaboration. A graduate of Leadership Greenville Legacy Class 50, Victoria serves on the Greenville County Workforce Development Board and is an active member of the Rotary Club of Greenville, where she volunteers as a second grade reading mentor at Alexander Elementary School, sharing her love of literacy with young learners. Victoria holds a bachelor's degree in multidisciplinary studies and a master's in public administration from the University of Nebraska at Omaha. She is certified online instructor and a leadership facilitator, and she and her husband, Troy, story behind that, enjoy living in upstate with their doodles, chickens, and time spent visiting with their grown children.
Yes.
All right. What a bio.
Yes. And pulling from that, like when you say University of Nebraska at Omaha, I just think they teach us how to be a maverick. Like that's like so cool to get that feeling and to hear that. And no matter what, even being in South Carolina, every time I look at the bio or somebody talks about it or reads it, warm fuzzies when I think about my experience at UNO.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I was there when you started your educational journey. That was a few years ago, probably like 17 years ago, something like that. When you had the thought, the flicker, you had that gleam in your eye that there's something more, something better. You know, one of the things that I've really enjoyed watching you is just the evolution of Victoria Novak, how you started, and where you're at today. Can you go back a little bit and just what lessons did you learn along the way about the leadership evolution that you've gone through?
Well, it's not, when you sit and think about like the evolution of leadership, it's not really the organizations you work for. It's not like the tasks that you're learning. It's not the skills that you're learning. It really is about the people that you're with. Yeah. It's the people that help you get there. And I think like I was working with you for 22 years or something like that. And I think that what I wanted more of was to be in a position to give back in a different way. And so going to UNO, of course, that sets the academic side of life, right. But it's really the people that you engage with that tell you that you can, right? And you will, and that you have a story that's important. And the consistency behind the people that you engage with that you finally start believing, yeah, I mean, I can, because they're not just they're telling me, but they're supporting me and they're pushing me and they're championing me. And so it doesn't matter if I've been in front of a classroom, if I'm in front of my team, if I'm in front of adult learners right now, what they're going to hear is that it's never too late to have a mentor. It's never too late to have people behind you and telling you that they are going to champion you. And I think that that's the evolution. It's like constantly learning and growing and having this growth mindset that there were people there that supported me. I pivoted late in life. I still feel like I'm pivoting sometime, but we are there to now help them recognize when it's time to pivot. There's going to be a champion behind you supporting you. And so I think the evolution of leadership really is just don't be afraid to pivot.
Yeah. And that pivot for you was really an inside out transformation. Where your leadership had always been there, because I knew you back as a top performer, as top of your game, and now you're making top performers. You're out there changing lives in a different way, still performing, I used to always call it a subject matter expert. And you certainly were that, and then some, but also the ability to reach and touch, which eventually led you to the Greenville Literacy Association. Hey, tell me a few things about the Greenville Literacy Association and what you love so much about it.
Our mission is to increase the literacy and employability of adult learners, all adult learners. And we say Greenville County, but really it's the upstate of South Carolina. And ultimately, it's just to make sure that people understand that in our nation, 1 in 5 adults, working aged adults, read at or below the 3rd grade reading level. And it's not because they are unintelligent. It's not because they're lazy or unmotivated. It's generally because they did not have the support that they needed throughout life. And that's why going to Alexander Elementary and reading to 2nd graders is so important. I quiz them every time I get in front of them and I say, what do I do? And they say, you help adults read. And I said, and what's important about the 2nd grade to the 3rd grade? And they learn every class I get in front of. They know that by the time they get into the 3rd grade, they need to be reading at the 3rd grade reading level. Because if you're not, the chances of you becoming an illiterate adult are greater.
Yeah.
And why it's so important in the work that we do serving adults 18 and older is because it trickles down. If adults can read well, if they are excited about learning, their children will be. And so I love what we do. So in what we do, our programs are English as a second language, GED preparation, college and career pathways. Of course, when people walk through our doors, generally they say, I want to get my GED, but they leave building confidence. They leave knowing that they have people that are supporting them, that once they finish a program, they're not just exiting and leaving. We're going to help them convert to their next best life and pivot into something that will lead them towards self-sufficiency. And that's so powerful. When you serve 500 students a year or thereabouts, those are 500 different stories of sometimes tragedy, working many jobs, raising families, people who have quit high school and they had addiction and they battled that and they came back because they wanted to give their children more. Like every single student has a story like that. And it's so powerful to know that I'm working in not just an industry, but a world where it's not about us. It's about how you see these people change their lives where nobody was supporting them before, and they walk out with confidence and they feel like they belong.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
I love that. And I love how you frame that because, you know, as a coach, one of the things I look at, and I was telling someone about a transformation of a client, and the comment came back, wow, that was really good work. And I was like, well, she did the work. I'm the guide, right? You can only go so far. And that's really the way you've positioned GLA, is to be the guide, kind of the shining light, the beacon of hope in what could be a world that is shut off or dark for a lot of people, because literacy is so important. So a couple things, just hearkening back. So, you know, when you were in Omaha, you were also reading to elementary school kids.
I was.
And I remember that because I signed your time off, I think, a few times. And so you were spending your time doing the same thing. So lifelong learner has been something I've known about you, Victoria, that is something that's always been near and dear to your heart, whether it was getting an advanced degree, expanding your career, or just learning to learn has been so important. With all the changes that happen in regulations, funding, how important is it today to make sure that organizations like the Greenville Literacy Association is well funded and thriving?
Oh, yes. First of all, shout out to Partnership for Kids in Omaha. I mean, that's where I did my reading. And Kellum is where I read, and that's where I went to school for the second grade when I was bused there. So Deb Denbeck and all of that. Shout out to all my nonprofit CEO friends.
Yeah.
We're in tough times, but, the tough get going, right?
Yeah.
And so I think in a world where, federal funds shift, where, individual donors, new generations give in different ways. Ultimately, I think as nonprofit leaders, we have to continue to evolve. When I was in Omaha, worked a lot, in the startup community. And somebody told me once that if you are not creating, if you are not starting something new, if you are not disrupting yourself, somebody will come in and disrupt you. And so it's this natural feeling, vibe, that this work, this internal fire that you have to constantly thinking about how are we going to evolve, what's next. I keep kind of coming back to pivot. Yeah. In a funding world, if a nonprofit CEO is not thinking about ways to generate an earned income model, you can't have all your eggs in one basket. And so at GLA, I walked through the doors in 2023. I walked into a budget that was negative $240,000. Wow. And we ended that first year negative $26,000.
Okay.
Because it's boots on the ground. It's what are the revenue streams? We generated a new revenue stream, taking from my work at MCC in corporate training and developed a corporate training model. Why not? Why not take literacy on the road? Because literacy is not just teaching somebody who's at the third grade reading level, even though we teach folks that are even below the kindergarten reading level. But literacy is financial literacy, digital literacy. Is how do we take individuals in a labor workforce, and we're big manufacturing in supply and logistics in South Carolina, but it's how do we take individuals and raise them up so that way businesses aren't poaching other employees from each other, and we are helping fill the gap of that work skill set that they need. And so all that to say is nonprofit leaders, we constantly have to be evolving and be innovative in the way that we're thinking. Use your strategic plan, have an operating plan. And if you've got a plan and you trust the plan and you work the plan, you're going to make sure that you keep reaching that next level. So,
and one of the things, and that's a huge turnaround, economically. And, I think that's really important. What were some of the pillars? Like when you went in there to make that turnaround, give me 2-3 of the main pillars you focused on that first year to get things stabilized.
First of all, I was just, beside myself that I actually finally landed. When you're in the workforce for 30 years and you work in all sectors and you don't go to school until you're 36 years old. And I had 3 kids in middle school and high school, and I was crying at the kitchen table with algebra. And, but to finally land at an organization, where I could take all of my skills and then take my academic side and say, okay, I'm living my purpose. But I couldn't do it alone. Like, first of all, I read a really good book, The First 90 Days. Okay. And the first 90 days is what set me up where I knew that I was going to have a flurry of things in my head that I wanted to do, but I needed to make sure that I understood where I was. And so my pillars were, who are our community partners? What kind of collective impact is GLA working with? What does our team culture look like? What are our operations looking like? And how do we make sure we stay really clear on the goals that are and the outcomes that are expected of us? So that clear alignment. So those are truly the pillars that I still come back to. And so in each of those areas, it's what needs to be tackled first.
Right.
And I often think of stepping into GLA I don't know why I think of like a big pirate ship all the time, like
Okay.
a big wooden ship, and you've got people who are supposed to be sitting in the rows and everybody is rowing. But in this case, I feel like I entered a ship where everybody is rowing in different directions. There's holes in the ship. People are bailing water. There's cannons coming in and hitting the ship. And there's people inside, unfortunately, shooting holes from the inside out. And I feel now, almost at the 3-year mark, we are rowing together.
Yeah.
And it started with these pillars of get your operations in order, get your finances in order, get people in the community to believe that this 60-year-old organization is still relevant. And so in my first 30 days, I had 67 meetings internally and externally with the purpose to find a trend of what did people think about GLA and who they were and what's their reputation. And so just taking all that information, those pillars, and just driving ahead.
Okay.
So-
okay. Well, and you've always had a superpower, like one of your expressed powers. You're probably uncomfortable with me saying that, but one of the expressed powers has been connecting with people. And when you believe something, you believe it to the core of who you are. When you drive progress and you drive change, you typically find a way to really maximize that. But what a situation to walk into, to get it turned around, and then to watch the evolution just 3 years later to where you're a vibrant and probably more influential part of the community than you have been for a while, certainly. And going back to that 60th anniversary, because you mentioned it, I was fortunate enough to get to come out to Greenville and talk at your celebration. And one of the things that I walked away from, Victoria, were the student stories of impact, both that the associations had on their lives, but that they're having on other people's lives. This whole kind of concept of if we pay it for, if we're there for others, what they can do then just pays forward so deep. Would you mind sharing a few of those stories that we heard, maybe even at that event?
Yeah, so there's a really great story. So Raphael is one of the stories that I love to talk about because Raphael was an individual that was working in a great industry. He was in transportation. He was a truck driver making some very, very good money, had a young family that he was raising, and found himself one day with a spinal injury that took him out of that business. There was no way that he could go back and be a driver. Woke up one day, and he'll tell you this, that he's like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't have a GED. How am I going to find a job that's making the same kind of money in transportation that I was without that? And so he had had several surgeries. He started our GED program, our boot camp, which is an accelerated program, came into class in a wheelchair every day. Every day there was class, he was there in a wheelchair. And so this was back 2019, I think, is when he finally got his GED, and he was able to walk across the stage and get this GED. Wow. He didn't stop there. He went on. He is now multiple certifications in IT. He has his master's in information systems. He is working with a great organization, actually, I believe Volvo North America, doing the work that he's doing. But I think what's most important about just when I say people walk in wanting one thing, they think, and they walk out with confidence, our goal is to make sure that there is a cycle for them to come back. So Raphael comes back, he tutors students, right? He gets in the classroom and they understand that he's already had that lived experience.
Right.
But I think more importantly, I asked him to serve on our board of directors, which many nonprofits probably have participants serve. I don't know. I just knew that while you need a strong board of directors from a variety of different areas and skill sets, if I don't have somebody with lived experience, how do I know that we're staying focused on our trajectory and what makes us unique?
Yeah.
And so he is just a wonderful success story. And again, there's so many of them. And it's not always just about, did they land a great job and are they making a great income? We have Jennifer, who fell from a grocery shopping cart when she was 3 years old. She had to relearn how to walk and talk. She's probably never going to get her GED. She comes into our building blocks programs and she learns to continue her reading journey every single day because she wants to read street signs. She wants to read a menu and not have to copy off of somebody when they're in a restaurant. But when you ask Jennifer what she has gained, it's not just confidence, but it's a sense of belonging, that there are people there that she can inspire.
Right.
And so I could go on and on about the stories that we have and the people that walk through our doors and who we're serving.
And a lot of those stories, you've captured them in some of the videos I've seen on your website. And so I would just invite our listeners to go out there and listen. These are lives being transformed. And I love what you said. It's not just stopping with a transformed life for the individual. They're transforming others' lives. And everyone's at different places. It's not always how high we climb. It's just how we keep going, how we continue to improve ourselves. And there's something about offering dignity to humanity that really captivates me. And I love the work that I've been able to get to do with Greenville Literacy Association. So let's go there really quick, because you made a strategic decision, Victoria, to make Greenville Literacy Association a strength-based organization. Explain what you were thinking, what you hoped for when you got into that. Why did you want to be a strength-based organization?
So I often tease that in the state of Nebraska, that if you don't have your top 5 on your resume, I'm sure that your resume is probably thrown out. You know, Clifton Strengths is such an important part of, I think, who we are here in the Midwest. And it's vital to how I operate. And so my top 5, and learner being number 1, which that whole lifelong learning and not being afraid to start. And if you fail forward, it all comes down to, okay, if I understand myself and my strengths really, really well, and also when I'm not always in the balcony, sometimes I'm in the basement with them, that if I have a team of people that can believe in something and it starts with their top 5 strengths, then they will want to also build stronger relationships with each other, right? We talk a lot about the students who walk through our doors, but I can't do the work I'm doing without a strong team of people who want to do it alongside me. They are my team. They are not my staff. They are my team members. And I want them to understand how they operate, because I want them to grow and thrive, so that way they can be there for each other better and they can walk in as their best selves, whether it's a one-on-one meeting or a group meeting or a collaborative meeting, that they can understand if somebody's operating in a certain way, are they living within their strength, or can I understand how their basement works too? So that way I can be a great reflective listener and we can get to the other side of whatever it is we're working on. So, and if we can do that, then we can serve our mission and our students better. So being a strength-based organization, you have to believe in something. And that to me has been a part of my life for 25 years.
Yeah. I remember, probably back then when we went bowling and we each had a top 5 strength. And before we threw the ball, we talked about our strengths. And, but you've taken it to a different level with your staff. And one of the things that I've noticed is that belief in each other. When you understand somebody's strengths, you see what's right in them. It's a little change of perspective, because you're no longer looking, we look for basements, balconies, and for our listeners who aren't aware of that language, it's our strengths at their very best. And sometimes if it's getting in the way of progress, what does that look like? Manage what we're getting in the way of progress, focus on our best self. And to know that about people constantly puts you on the lookout for what's right in people. And so what kind of results have you seen? Give me a snapshot before fully evolving strengths into the organization. And then what are you experiencing after you've had it fully kind of ingrained? Now, understanding that you have people at different cycles in the knowledge of strengths, but what's the before and after look like?
Well, I think the before is that you get a bunch of people in a room to do the job, right? To do the work. And they're showing up as themselves. And maybe they've gone through certain personality assessments. Everybody's just on a different level of who they are, their work experience, how they work with others in personalities and all of that. It gets kind of messy. And so again, if you don't have a solid foundation of something that you can believe in, then I think it stays messy, right? So I think that with strengths, well, first of all, we open every single one of our meetings with some type of strengths question. And it's usually I'll put everybody's top 5 up there and I'll have them go around, we call it around the room, and they have to select one strength from one of their coworkers and say, how did their strength show up this week? Right?
Nice.
Or how do I want one of my strengths to show up this week? And so when you start to have that kind of language, you start to really pay attention to what it means to build a very, very strong, solid group. But I think on an individual basis, somebody who, really focuses on their strengths in everything that they do and showing up as their best selves, before they were never coming in and saying, my strength is communication, and before maybe I got a little bit gossipy. But what I've recognized is that in my communication, if I can actually just listen to what somebody's saying a little bit more, be a little bit more intentional about hearing them and not feeling like I have to respond quickly or come up with an answer, but I can actually, that's me using my strength in communication. I'm going to do so much better at trying to practice that part of my communication strength. And so when it's another language, right?
Yeah,
and
it really
it's
is.
one that, again, I know that I can show up as my best self. And if my learner is my number one, I need to listen intently, but I don't need to go to the moon and back. That doesn't mean that I need to know it all. I just need to make sure that I'm listening well enough and learning what they have to say so they can still feel empowered to go and do. Yeah. And it's a work in progress, especially when you have new people, they have to learn it, and you just have to keep conversating about it, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be a part of everything we do.
Well, and I think you nailed it. Because so many organizations talk about taking it. And I would say in our earlier days, I was even guilty of that. I mean, we explore it. It's fun. We get to know each other. But you've fully integrated it into your organization. Now you're starting meetings with it. You've given access to some of your team members for some advanced coaching in their strengths. And you've really started to kind of embody it. Now, one of the things that organizations often tout is that if you have a strength-based organization, your engagement or active engagement, which is the positive engagement where team members want to be there, they want to show up, they want to do the work, they want to serve. Kind of obviously you do if you're working in such an important mission that you're working in. But have you noticed a shift in what we'll call employee engagement? And then if you have, has that shift turned into community impact?
So culture is probably the most challenging thing to tackle.
Yeah.
In 2.5 years, we have adopted, I think, a culture that had been at GLA for a very long time. Not necessarily a bad culture, it's just different, right?
Yeah.
I'm very much with an evolutional frame of mind, but I feel like our team, when they really focus on our mission, our vision, it's no longer about me. It really is about we. And I don't know. I think our focus with, again, I'm always going back to strengths, right?
Yeah.
Because if we can have a way to talk to each other about who we are, and we can get really raw about like when we are upset and be very transparent with each other, that's what changes the culture of an organization. Again, the probably most challenging thing for us to tackle. Really good example is back in November of 2024. Yeah. We had some turnover. People were very unhappy with me on my communication style of what took place, and so we did an employee satisfaction survey. Okay. And I had leaders tell me, "Why would you do this at this time? You've got people that are so disgruntled." I mean, if you're going to get really real about changing culture, you need to know exactly what's on people's mind. You can't solve all problems, but you need to know, and you need to find the trends, right?
Sure.
So we did that. Satisfaction was at 73%. Okay. Really, really challenging. But I committed to every 6 months doing this. Happy to say that November 2025, we're at 94.1%.
Wow.
And so I think a lot of this just comes down to building a team of people who feel really comfortable saying what they need to say professionally and working through some of the messy stuff and being okay with getting muddy. Right.
Yeah.
You and I've talked about that before, but really it's because they care enough about learning about who they are and how they're going to show up and how they're going to treat each other to just build such a strong culture. So I don't know if I answered your question, but it just makes me sit and ponder on like how my team comes together now, and they really think about changing who they are because they want to show up as their best selves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's a big evolution, a 73 to a 94, a testimony to that. The other thing then, just from your personal perspective, your leadership journey, as you continue to evolve, one of the things I know that you're really trying to do is really play to your strengths, which probably looks a little bit different when you step into an organization. The first 2 years were very operational driven, but you've really been able to kind of sit back, collect your thoughts, review, make changes, tweaks, edits, all that kind of stuff. Double click here, don't do that. You've gone through a lot in a short amount of time. And how has the evolution of Victoria taken place? How are you a better leader today than, let's say, 2 years ago?
Well, I have a really good executive coach, honestly. I'm a better leader because I have people that are willing to pour into me.
Okay.
So I'm learning how to have a better growth mindset. Mm-hmm. That's really tough when you come in and sometimes you think you know it all. You really don't. And so I think the evolution of me being a leader really is not because of me. It is because I have had people in my life that are willing to invest in me. And what that does is make me want to continue to invest in my people, right? Professional development, absolutely important. Having Mark, you as our executive coach, super important for my team. Somebody that they can go to so they can understand how do they tackle some of these big things that they're faced with. Huge shout out to an organization in Greenville. It's Greater Good Greenville. Mm-hmm. A nonprofit really is about building community. And I'm thankful that and grateful that they just voted me in on their board of directors. Yeah. So super excited to help nonprofits and philanthropists come together in the county. But it's because you have people who will give you a great big warm hug, but then also tell you, you know what? Let's fix this. Mm-hmm. And so I think the evolution of me being a leader really comes down to having an opportunity to be in the company of people who want to pour into me, mm-hmm. which is exactly what we want to do at GLA. Yeah. That our goal is to pour into people so they can take a hold of that and they can go live their best life. And I think having an executive coach is what that allows me to do, and take really long, hard looks at who I am, how I operate, how I communicate. Probably one of my biggest lessons working with you as an executive coach over the past couple of years is reflective listening. Mm-hmm. It's so easy that when you want to be a problem solver that you just jump right in and cut people off and this is what's going to solve your world's problems. But that's not, like, people really want to be heard and they really want to be seen and valued for what they're bringing to the table. And so reflective listening and listening without judgment with the intention to find common ground is probably the most powerful thing that I have learned, continue to learn, that's the evolution of who I am as a leader. And I'm talking a lot right now, but it's really making sure that people have a voice, mm-hmm. no matter who they are, and that I can sit still long enough to not feel like I have to solve their problems, but solve when they're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, so important. Well, and I know that our listeners would be able to understand just by the way you define that. You've done the work. See, that the thing about even the work that we've done together is you've been a champion and you've been vulnerable and you've stepped up to the plate. And through the good times and the bad times, I always call them the peaks and the valleys of life. You've put your best foot forward. You've created systems. So it's as much emotional as it is technical, systems to help you evolve to that next phase of your career. And it feels like to me, are just now catching a huge wave of momentum, mm-hmm. For GLA, for your career, for who you are as a leader, and what's possible. There's one other subject I think is really important to talk about that I think will be really fun, and it's this concept of managing up. So we talk a lot about, integrating strengths, helping your team have access to development as well, because that's exactly mirroring. And I always say that if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself. And so you've changed the dynamics of your team internally, and now you're seeing it blossom externally. But like you said, that pattern repeats in how you serve and give. And I love that, because for me, I can sit back and watch it happen, because you're the kind of leader who integrates learning. You don't learn to learn. And that's different, because I'm surrounded by a lot of leaders who will like quote me a book, but never have put it into practice. You've not quoted the book, you've just practiced the book. You go. And that's so good. But there's a tougher element to being a nonprofit leader and someone at your level, and that's working with a board of directors. Mm-hmm. So how has you knowing your strengths, your approach to relationship building, and putting together what I would say one of the stablest, really high caliber boards that I've experienced, how do you do that? And what's that journey been like to kind of help partner with a board of directors to help advance the cause of GLA?
Yeah, my board is excellent. I think it's a mutual respect. In the nonprofit world, you're constantly hearing folks talk about, how do I build a strong board? I'm very operational, so I'm very much, okay, what's our skills matrix look like? Yep. What does our memo of agreement look like? We have a board scorecard, so that way there's accountability. But at the end of the day, it's people who believe in our mission and they believe in me. They lead me well, and I think we have a mutual respect on how are we going to guide this organization and do it really, really well. And so I could probably just talk all day about my board of directors. Matter of fact, I have 4 rolling off in June, and I'm like heart-wrenched over it because they were with me from the get-go, and hopefully after a year goes by, they'll come back. But your board of directors, I think a lot of times, maybe boards get too much into the weeds and they're not supposed to. Mm-hmm. They let me do what they hired me to do. They have very strong governance. They have very strong fiduciary responsibility over the organization. But they don't feel like they need to get into the nitty gritty with me. They are there to be my strategic thought partners. And that's where it stops.
Yeah.
And that's what they're there to do, to bring their skills and their best selves to me, so that way I can go do what I was hired to do. And they give me that freedom. And I feel like maybe there's many nonprofits that don't experience that. Yeah. But then it comes down to recruiting great people. We know what we want on our board. Yeah. And those are the people that we bring on board with us to make sure that GLA stays unique, that we are creating great value for the community. And we do not have a board of directors that are there to build resumes. They are there to do the work.
Wow.
So
that's awesome. That's impressive. And I love the way that you interact, your relationship with them and the community, because many of the board members are just a slice of this greater Greenville community and then beyond. A couple other things we got to talk about. What's up with this book sale?
Oh.
My goodness, the thing is massive.
Mm-hmm. So I have never experienced anything like it. And so when I took over at GLA, I'd have people come up and say, hey, are you going to get rid of the book sale? Are you going to change the name of the book sale? And I'm like, what book sale? And then I experienced it. So the really good, really big, really cheap book sale is in its 25th anniversary. We have some amazing volunteers that come in every Wednesday to take all donated books, and they process about 175,000 books every year.
Wow, that's awesome.
So we are at an old retail mall, no longer retail, and so 1 week out of the summer in the month of August, second weekend of August, we put out about 100 to 110,000 books in all genres, all donated. We see about 13,000 people over a 3-day period. And last year we had a record-breaking year where we generated $175,000 from this book sale.
That's crazy.
Literally the cost is about $30,000, and that's just direct costs. I mean, what we generate, and this is why I will never be a gala person at Greenville Literacy Association, because this fundraising event, while it seems like it goes very quickly.
Right.
We have an amazing fundraising event leader. Her name is Ellen Lane, and she has a group of people that work tirelessly to make sure that this system for this book sale just goes off without a hitch. And I say that like it's easy breezy. It's not. There's always things that go wrong when you're expecting 13,000 people over a 3-day period to buy books. It is controlled chaos is what it is. But it is such an exciting event. We probably have people come from definitely all along the East Coast area and definitely our region, but 6-7 different states. They make it a destination. They mark their calendar every year with the single purpose that this is a fundraising event to support adult literacy.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love how it gets the entire community to lean in on this thing. And I was there kind of in pre that. So I got to see the warehouse. You have that many books there. I mean, it is crazy. And the excitement that builds from both the marketing to advertising, the team, certainly, all hands on deck to make that thing go. But then also the opportunity to put a book in somebody's hand who may or may not have had the opportunity to get a really good, really cheap book at this place. So it's awesome.
Where can you go? Books start at 50 cents.
Nice.
You can no longer even put coins in a machine and get something for 50 cents.
That's true.
And so, the most expensive book that's out is usually $7, and these are the best books. We do have a section where we have vintage books. We have people that donate. So if you have donate your books to us. Like we will put them to good use. But we have some that are just first signed author books.
Wow.
And we have a stage. Thankfully, we have an area where people can come up and just find things that are very unique. But for the most part, it's just an event where people come together because reading is that important.
Yeah.
If we have somebody come through our doors, that we have a story where a sister of this student came in, and her sister lived up in New York area.
Okay.
She had never gone to travel to see her. She couldn't drive up there. Why? Because she couldn't read the street signs. Come to GLA, go through our building blocks program, learn how to read. We have somebody who came in who knew 5 words. She's now up to 50 words. Imagine the power that you can get behind the wheel of your car, drive up to see your sister that you've never been able to drive up to see because now you can read the street signs. It's things that sometimes we take for granted.
Yeah.
That's how powerful reading is. And the book sale itself is just that. It's that next level of come and buy all these books because we need to make sure that our nation is reading.
Yeah.
It's fundamental to everything that we do.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Okay, so you brought up a good point. How do people donate books? What's the pathway to do that and get involved and then buy the books? Let's start there. And then I want to talk a little bit more about how people can help support the Greenville Literacy Association. But first, let's start with the book sale.
Sure. You can mail them to us. I
Okay.
ran into a gentleman at the Blue Ridge Institute, which is an annual event for nonprofit CEOs. We get together, and he lives in Los Angeles area, and his uncle was an author of sci-fi. He's like, my uncle has boxes and boxes of books, and we need a place for them. And I said, mail them to us.
Nice.
So 225 South Pleasantburg Drive in Greenville, South Carolina, you can mail your books to us. But if you're local, they know that you can come to McAllister Square. You can donate your books to us, drop them off. We have bins locally, but it doesn't matter where you are. Ship your books to us. We'll take them. Go to our website. There are things that we don't take, of course. We don't want textbooks that are older than 5 years, but for the most part, we'll take the anything and we process them. Again, 175,000 books is what we're processing every year.
Yeah, that's crazy. What about Encyclopedia Britannica? No. Because I know that you're the only family I know that has a set of those.
I should not call my husband out when we first met, and I think I still have a bill for Encyclopedia Britannica. But no, we do they still publish encyclopedias?
I don't know. I think they're digital.
Yeah,
now.
we don't take encyclopedias.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, and on the rest, this amazing work that you're doing for these amazing humans that you get to serve, and the amazing Greenville County. And I didn't even ask you about that. How's your life in South Carolina?
We actually have a snowstorm coming this weekend, so I'm not sure we're going to make it home. This is very abnormal for us to have an ice storm one weekend and snowstorm the next. But Greenville, South Carolina, just South Carolina as a whole is such a welcoming state. Their motto is, while I breathe, I hope.
Oh.
And it's Dum Spiro Spero in the Latin version. And it's just amazing. And it's just an amazing group of people. I've worked both in Spartanburg County and Greenville County. I've worked with people, in different cities all around the state. I'm part of a great program right now called Launch Carolinas, which the lead funder of that is Duke Endowment. And it's for nonprofit leaders across North Carolina and South Carolina. Just the Carolinas are just a hardworking bunch of folks that welcome you with open arms, and they are ready to innovate. And so just living in the area, besides the great weather, it's just an amazing place to be. I love the Midwest. I love Nebraska. Driving through Lincoln yesterday and seeing some amazing organizations still standing, the Huddles of the world and Don't Panic Labs, gives me warm and fuzzy feelings. To see Metropolitan Community College and the work that we did there is amazing. But South Carolina is a great place to be, for sure. And so just warm and fuzzy, and these people just love to make things happen every single day. And that's great to be a part of that.
Yeah. I love that. And in my time in South Carolina, I felt that. So I would just confirm. But we miss you here. And there's a hole without the Novaks here. So back to GLA. So now you're saying this great work that you're doing, these lives that you're transforming, helping people get a step up with education. Most nonprofit leaders, at least in my experience now, are struggling with this concept of funding. You have a book sale, you're innovating every single day. How do people get involved, and how can they give to the Greenville Literacy Association to help make a difference in people's lives?
Yeah. So time, talent, and treasure, the 3 T's, that's what nonprofits really talk about. I would be remiss if I did not mention probably the most important group of people that we have at GLA. And so while I'll talk about funding in a moment, and that's important, right? Without money, there's no mission. But our volunteers. We had over 9,000 volunteer hours last year, not just from the book sale, which those folks come in every single week, and we are so grateful for them and the work that they do. It's hard work. But our instructors are all volunteer instructors. And I think the unique value add to our students by having these volunteer instructors is they come from many walks of life. They have real life experience that they can teach through real life scenarios. When they're in there teaching to the GED is math, reading language arts, social studies, and science. If they have somebody in the classroom who is in construction, they can teach the math GED based on measurements, based on real world scenarios. And so those instructors that come into our classrooms do it on their free time. They are not paid. And so we could not operate without them. At any given time through our 14-week semesters, we probably have around 70 to 80 volunteer instructors coming in and out of our classrooms every day. We do the training. We do a lot of training and give them a lot of tools and curriculum, but their life experience is what makes it so important. So that time is necessary for us. So if you are in the area, you just click on our Ways to Volunteer page, and there's something for you, whether it's administrative, it's instruction, it's the book sale, we've got something.
Awesome.
And to donate to us, if you are a workplace literacy partner, if you are a business out there that would like to close the skills gap, and you would like to do that with professional development, English as a second language, we will bring our show to you. We'll do a little road show, and we will bring workplace literacy to you. We also have another program, by the way, shout out to a program called Build, where we are going to have 2 certified entrepreneur trainers on our team. And our students are going to be able to build a business plan and become a certified entrepreneur through, it's called COABE, the Coalition of Adult Basic Education Certification. But that program is to help people become their own boss, right? If they are self-employed, they become their own boss. That grows exponentially, that there's economic development and mobility there financially. But of course, then, become a donor to us, go to our Ways to Give page on our website, greenvilleliteracy.org, and support a student. It costs us about $700 per student every semester. And so $1,400 a year supports one student to go through our programs. on average, it takes someone about 2 years to get their GED.
Yeah.
So, do the math. $2,800 will put somebody through getting their GED. And again, these are not folks that didn't get their GED because they were lazy or they were unmotivated.
Right.
These are people who had life situations. 75% of who we serve are under the federal poverty line. And so these are people who really just need somebody to champion them. And by funding them, allows us to buy our textbooks. It allows us to get our curriculum in place. It allows us to have a team in place where they can wrap their case management style around our students and connect them to other community partners. Transportation, childcare, those are major barriers that we have besides the financial barrier. So it allows us to do the work that we do and serve our mission.
Wow, that's awesome. I don't know if I ever told you this, but my grandma and grandpa had a 3rd and 6th grade education. Before my grandfather could take his promotion at the Union Pacific Railroad, so he was a lifer with the railroad, and my dad was a lifer with the railroad too. But before he could get his promotion, he needed to learn to read because he couldn't read. So my grandmother stood up and tutored him towards reading, and they were able to make it through that part of their life. My mom, on the other hand, went back and got her GED at age 40 because she wanted to graduate high school with her GED before I did when I was coming up through the system. And so I always had mega respect for her. So your work has personal impact and meaning. And I could just tell you, when you say it's not everybody's choice, it really isn't. There are life circumstances that can get in the way of this thing. And if it's not addressed, it compounds. And what you're doing is standing in the gap for individuals, giving them that chance at literacy, at an opportunity to read. And now you're talking entrepreneurship. And we know that the biggest growth area in our communities are small business. And you're putting out small business owners and small business owner mindsets. So even if they get hired, they're going to have an entrepreneurial mindset, which means they're going to make really good strategic decisions, understand the nuances of running a business, and really have a quality impact in the community. Can't say enough about you, your character, and the work that you do. Victoria, thank you so much for being part of the Triple Margin Freedom podcast and your friendship and trust over the years.
Thank you for having me. This has been a great experience and for helping us celebrate what we can do better in the world. Right?
Absolutely. In it with you. Thanks, Victoria. And to our listeners, I hope you now know what I know. This is an exceptional leader doing exceptional work, nonprofit, but yet I love what she said. No money, no mission. So let's get out there. Let's help the Greenville Literacy Association. And Victoria, to you and your entire team, thank you for pouring into your community. You matter.
Thank you.